Northern Australia's lack of major cities is back in the spotlight. When you look at a map of Australia, you see Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth all in the south, but the north is practically empty. Why is this? The British made 6 separate attempts to establish major settlements in this vast region, which is larger than Mexico. Every single attempt failed spectacularly. The problem? An unforgiving climate with 6 months of extreme heat, followed by 6 months of devastating floods. Add in cyclones that regularly destroy any new construction, and you have a recipe for disaster. This historical struggle explains why the North has fewer people than a small town. Stay tuned, because understanding this history reveals the powerful forces that shape where we live. The Louisiana Purchase is back in the spotlight. Just this week, newly unearthed documents reveal the intense backroom negotiations behind the historic 1803 deal. France's position? Napoleon, desperate for cash to fund his European wars, saw a chance to offload a territory he could barely manage. Why does this matter? For a mere $15 million, the US doubled its size overnight, acquiring 828,000 square miles of land. That's less than 4 cents an acre. This single transaction reshaped the nation's destiny, fueling westward expansion and transforming its economic future. With America's identity still being forged, this land deal became a geopolitical masterstroke. Stay tuned, because the echoes of this 200-year-old decision still define the country we know today. The story of America's expansion is back in the spotlight. Just years after the Louisiana Purchase, the U.S. annexed Texas, triggering a war with Mexico. The result? A massive land grab, ceding territories that would become California, Nevada, and Utah. Why does this matter? This relentless push westward, fueled by the concept of manifest destiny, displaced countless Native American tribes and reshaped the continent's demographics and power balance forever. With gold discovered in California and the promise of new land drawing millions, this chapter of expansion was only getting more intense. Stay tuned, because the consequences of this era are still felt closer to home than you think. America's westward expansion is back in the spotlight. Just this week, debates reignited over the legacy of manifest destiny, the 19th century belief that drove the nation's coast-to-coast growth. The response from historians? A renewed focus on its complex and often brutal consequences for Native American populations and neighboring territories. Why does this matter? This rapid expansion was the engine behind America's economic and military might, fundamentally shaping its global influence. With current discussions on national identity and historical reckoning, understanding this pivotal era is more crucial than ever. Stay tuned, because how a nation views its past shapes its future in ways you might not expect. The California Gold Rush is back in the spotlight. Just this week, a new historical find uncovered records of the massive migration, showing over 300,000 people flocked to California in just a few years. The response from historians? A renewed focus on the profound and often brutal social transformation of the era. Why does this matter? This influx of 49ers didn't just create immense wealth, it accelerated California's path to statehood and reshaped the American West. With modern-day tech booms drawing parallels to this historic scramble for riches, the lessons of the gold rush are more relevant than ever. Stay tuned, because the echoes of what happened in those gold fields still resonate in America today. The debate over U.S. immigration policy is back in the spotlight. Just this week, the administration announced new executive actions aimed at managing the southern border, tightening asylum rules for new arrivals. The response? A mix of support for stronger controls and criticism for potentially limiting access for those seeking refuge. Why does this matter? These policies could significantly impact immigrant communities, border cities, and the labor market, from farms to tech hubs. With the national conversation heating up and both sides digging in, this high-stakes debate over who builds America's future is only getting more intense. Stay tuned, because what's happening at the border could shape the nation's economy and culture for years to come. America's industrial strategy is back in the spotlight. Just this year, the U.S. government has poured billions into domestic manufacturing through the CHIPS and Inflation Reduction Acts, from semiconductors to clean energy. The goal? To onshore critical supply chains and supercharge innovation, creating thousands of high-tech jobs. Why does this matter? This massive public investment aims to re-establish America as a global manufacturing leader and counter foreign competition. With the global tech race heating up and economic security a top priority, this industrial chess game is only getting more intense. Stay tuned, because how this national project unfolds could reshape the US economy for decades to come. America's cultural influence is back in the spotlight. Just this year, US-made blockbusters dominated global box offices, while American tech giants unveiled next-gen AI that's reshaping industries. The world's response? A mix of adoption and adaptation, with countries both embracing and challenging this cultural and tech wave. Why does this matter? This dominance shapes everything from the apps on your phone to the movies you stream, influencing global trends and consumer behavior. With new technologies emerging and global tastes evolving, this cultural chess game is only getting more intense. Stay tuned, because what's happening in Hollywood and Silicon Valley could hit closer to home than you think. The American Civil War has drawn to a close. Just in its aftermath, the nation is shifting its focus to rebuilding and industrial expansion, from railroad construction to factory production. The response from the world? Watching intently as the US transforms into a new economic powerhouse. Why does this matter? This surge of growth could reshape global trade, attract waves of immigration, and even change the way you live and work. With the South undergoing reconstruction and the North booming with innovation, this economic chess game is just getting started. Stay tuned, because what's happening in America's new industrial age could hit closer to home than you think. The post-World War II era is back in the spotlight. Just after the war, the US launched the Marshall Plan, pouring billions into rebuilding Europe. The world's response? A swift alignment, with nations joining new alliances like NATO. Why does this matter? This strategy cemented America's role as a global leader, shaping international trade, security, and politics for decades. With the Cold War defining the era and the dollar becoming the world's reserve currency, this power play set the stage for the modern world. Stay tuned, because what happened in the aftermath of the war still impacts global dynamics more than you think. The global influence of American culture is back in the spotlight. Just this month, Hollywood blockbusters shattered box office records overseas, from Europe to East Asia. The world's response? A mix of sold-out theaters and local debates over cultural dominance. Why does this matter? This cultural export engine, from chart-topping pop music to fast fashion trends, can shape global conversations, consumer habits, and even social values. With streaming platforms pushing more US content than ever, and other nations investing to protect their own cultural industries, this soft power showdown is only getting more complex. Stay tuned, because what's playing on screens across the world could define the cultural landscape closer to home than you think. The global race for AI dominance is heating up. Just this week, the US announced new export controls aimed at restricting China's access to advanced AI chips and semiconductor technology. China's response? A pledge to accelerate its own domestic chip-making capabilities and achieve self-reliance. Why does this matter? These policies could reshape the entire tech landscape, impacting everything from smartphone manufacturing to the development of next-generation artificial intelligence. With the US seeking to maintain its technological edge and China determined to close the gap, this high-stakes competition is escalating quickly. Stay tuned, because the future of technology is being decided right now, with consequences that will be felt worldwide.